You are on the mute, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. I'm starting right now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaivo Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Srimvatam Sokatha Krishna Punya Slavana Kirtanaham Hridayantastha Hevadani Vidhu Noti Suditsatam Nashta Prayesu Avaddesu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhaviti Naistiki Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangu Langhayate Grim Yatkipata Maham Bande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Iswaram. Thanks everyone for joining and giving me the opportunity to speak on this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So today's chapter is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, Text 34 and 35. Text 34. Mayata pratitam vyatham chikite so gatayashi prasadya jagat atmanam tapasa dusprathadanam bhavachedam ayeham bhavam bhagya vivajitah. Translation by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki Jai. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in my case, although I have satisfied the super soul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who is already dead. Just see how unfortunate I am. For in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord, who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions again. But what sometimes it so happens that devotee engaged in the loving service of the Lord desires some material benefits in exchange for this service. This is not proper way to discharge devotional service. Out of ignorance, of course, sometimes a devotee does so, but Dhruva Maharaj regrets his personal behavior in this connection. Text 35. स्वराज्यं यच्छतो मौढ्या मानो मे भिक्षितो बत ईश्वरात् सेना पुण्येन फलिकारान इव धनः. Translation: because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me his personal service, I wanted material name, fame, prosperity. My case is just like that of the poor man who, when he satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance, asked only a few broken grains of husked rice. What? In this verse, the word Swarajyam, which means completely independence, is very significant. A conditioned soul does not know what complete independence is. Complete independence means situation in one's own constitutional position. The real independence of a living entity, who is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to remain always dependent on the Supreme Lord, just like a child who plays in complete independence, guided by his parents, who watch over him. The independence of the conditioned soul does not mean to fight with obstacles offered by Maya, but to surrender to Krishna. In the material world, everyone is trying to become completely independent simply by fighting against the obstacles offered by Maya. This is called the struggle of existence. Real independence is to be reinstated in the service of the Lord. Anyone who goes to Vaikuntha planet or Golok Vrindavan planet is freely offering his service to the Lord. This is complete independence. Just contrary to this overlordship, which we wrongly take to be independence. Many great political leaders have tried to establish independence, but due to such so-called independence, the people's dependence has only increased. The living entity cannot be happy trying to be independent in the material world. One has to surrender, therefore, unto the lotus feet of the Lord and engage in his original eternal service. Dhruva Maharaj regrets that he wanted material opulence and greater prosperity than that of his grandfather Lord Brahma. His begging from the Lord was like a poor man's asking a great emperor for a few grains of broken rice. The conclusion is that anyone who is engaged in the loving service of the Lord should never ask for material prosperity from the Lord. The awarding of material prosperity simply depends on the stringent rules and regulation of the external energy. Pure devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving Him. This is our real independence. If we want anything else, it is a sign of our misfortune. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले सुमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नमिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Thanks everyone for joining and giving me this opportunity to speak on this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So on this 34 and 35, this is considered as Dhruva Maharaj dedicates for his before his worship or before his austerity, because he had the material desire in his mind to lord it over the to have bigger kingdoms. So these are the basically the wishes from Dhruva Maharaj. So what he wants a bigger kingdom than his great grandfather Lord Brahma, and then he wants to rule the material world. And Dhruva Maharaj also had the revengeful attitude towards his stepmother Suruchi and stepbrother Uttam, right? So, so Dhruva Maharaj started lamenting because he started worshiping the Supreme Lord because of material desire. He lamented as follows: Dhruva Maharaj repented because he had come to the Lord to render devotional service for material benefit. Right. That's the problem of his lamentation. Here, he condemns his attitude only due to gross lack of knowledge done on one worship the Lord for material profit or for the sense gratification. The Lord is like a desert tree. Anyone can have whatever he desires from the Lord. But people in general do not know what kind of benediction they should ask from the Lord. Happiness derived from the touch of skin or sensuous happiness is present in the life of hawks and dogs. Such happiness is very insignificant. If a devotee worships the Lord for such insignificant happiness, he must be considered devoid of all knowledge. Persons who worship this is this is Dhruva Maharaj mentioned in one of the sloka. Person who worship you simply for the sense gratification for this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusory energy. In spite of having you, who are like a desert tree and are the cause of liberation from the birth and death, foolish persons such as me desire benediction from you for sense gratification, which is available even for those who live in the hellish condition. So, in this way, Dhruva Maharaj, he was saying that Krishna himself is the desire. Why was I desiring such insignificant thing? He realizes that his duty is to satisfy the desire of Krishna. So he simply focuses. So he simply focused that now I am obtaining Krishna in an indirect way, but he sees that actually the direct process is by simply carrying out the orders of spiritual master. That automatically, whenever Krishna is pleased, he will appear. So Dhruva Maharaj, before he met Krishna, he may have been confused, but once he saw Krishna, then he became very clear. He wanted to simply serve Krishna. So when you go to temple, we should not ask for any material desire. The reason being that when we go to temple, we never ask for any sufferings from the Lord, right? But we still get the suffering. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from the sense perception ocean of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So, which means when we go to temple, so see the Lord will just ask for our spiritual benefits. So, because even though you ask for some material happiness, so as you know, the happiness and distress it comes by the arrangement of the Lord. So, even though if you not ask for anything, it will come to you automatically, right? That's the that's the meaning of this. So, and the later one, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, four types of people is surrendered to him. The first class is called the first is called distressed people. Those are in distress, they surrender to Krishna, and those are in the need of money, and those are in the inquisitiveness. Or and then those are who are searching for the after the knowledge of the absolute truth. But as for the story, it says I was reading a lecture, the first class and second class, like the people's the distress and the need of money. These two kinds of peoples or devotees, they surrender the most to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, so in Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna says, "It is I am the Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the father and the mother, right? I'm also like in mentioned like." Uh, I'm the father, also the mother, the sustainer and the grandson. I'm the purifier, the goal of knowledge, the sacred syllable Om. I am Rig Veda, Sam Veda, and the Yajur Veda, right? So the Lord is our father and mother, and He knows what is good and bad for us. So, Lord fulfill our material desires, but it's beneficial for us so that we can progress spiritually. So that way Lord truthfully are material teachers. So in Shloka 34, Dhruva Maharaj said that it is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in my case, although I have satisfied the super soul of the whole universe, right? But still, what happens? He's repenting. He's just lamenting for this, for this behavior, for his material desire. So Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, one of the lecture, he mentioned that we are not even a devotee. We are practicing in devotional service so that one day we will become a devotee. You know, to become a devotee of Lord is very, very a rare position, right? So it is very difficult to satisfy the Lord. Yogis do meditation for a very long time, and they even cannot see the Lord face to face. As many years of meditation, they can able to see the toenail of the Lord. That's the position of the Dhruva Maharaj. How come he satisfied the Supreme Personality of God in due period of due period of time within the 6 month period? But here Dhruva Maharaj performed severe austerity and able to see the Lord face to face in 6 months. He is lamenting that just see how unfortunate I am. But in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions again. So, same way, we can see in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a conversation with Devotee and Lord Kapil Dev. That was the lamentation of Devotee. What happened? So, when Devotee married to Kardama Muni, right? Kardama Muni was the great sage, right? and he was the great devotee of the Lord. But if devotee wants, the Kardama Muni should can easily give him the self-realization, right? So she can progress definitely in the spiritual life immediately. But instead, she has the material desire to enjoy materially, right? So that's what is that's the lamentation from devotee. We can understand from the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, the same way, Dhruva Maharaj is also lamenting because he made his spiritual master Narada Muni, right? So instead of him asking how to progress spiritually in the spiritual part, but he was that time he was so much engrossed, for the material enjoyment, or you can say that the revengeful attitude towards his mother and father, or the because he wanted greater kingdom that time. So that's what he was lamenting for. But it is clear that before sorry, before seeing the Supreme Lord, since Dhruva Maharaj, his desire was to get the great kingdom and to some revengeful attitudes and all. But when he saw the Lord face to face, and when the because that time he could not speak anything because he was a small boy, just 5-year-old boy, he could not speak anything. But when the Lord touched his conch shell in his head, so then all of his the knowledge, the self realization, it becomes purified. And then after he becomes a devotee immediately after the touching of the Lord. And so then all of his what is called the revengeful attitude to lord it over the material world and everything is just dissipated. So in Sloka 35, Dhruva Maharaj mentioned that because of my state of complete foolishness and pursuit of pious activities, although the Lord offered me his personal service, I wanted material name, fame, and prosperity. My case is just like the poor man who, when he satisfied the great emperor, who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance, asked for a few grain of broken rice. So, in Purport Prabhupada very nicely mentioned, Dhruva Maharaj regrets that he wanted material opulence and greater prosperity than that of his great grandfather Lord Brahma. His begging from the Lord was like a poor man's asking a great emperor for a few grains of broken rice. The conclusion is that anyone who is engaged in the loving service of the Lord should never ask for material prosperity from the Lord. The awarding of material prosperity simply depends on the stringent rules and regulations of the external energy of the Lord, Maya. Pure devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving Him. This is our real independence. If you want anything else, the Prabhupada mentioned, it is a sign of our misfortune. So, we simply try to carry out the order of our previous acharyas, of our disciplic succession. Actually, Prabhupada revealed that there is a great secret to becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness. There is a great secret. That secret is one should constantly pray for the mercy of the spiritual master and the previous acharyas to advance in the pure devotional service. One should pray, he should desire the mercy of the great Vaishnavas. This is open secret that they are very easily satisfied. But one cannot approach without going through his spiritual master. If one does that, it's called Mayavadi. He is trying to say, I and my Guru are one. That cannot. One has to approach through his spiritual master, and he begs his previous acharyas, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, for mercy, for help to perfect oneself in pure Krishna consciousness. So, and so like Srila Prabhupada, he had showed this. He always was trying to satisfy the desire of his previous acharyas, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So once Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that more important than big temple is to distribute the books. So when he was in the last few days, so he told Prabhupada that when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was in at his last few days, he told Prabhupada confidential that in Gaudiya Math, when we build such big buildings, we moved from one entire house. Then immediately there was a conflict when we had our marble temple. We should stay in which room? Who could take which position? Who could sit where? Now I'm thinking better to simply take out all the marble stones, sell it, and print books and no, distribute the books. So, and this is one of my Guru Maharaj lecture. So he mentioned, how to very easily progress spiritually. So this is the lecture my Guru Maharaj said. We should be crying for Krishna. If this is what he mentioned, we should be crying for Krishna. If you are not crying for Krishna while you are chanting, we should know that our heart is very hard. We are very fallen. Therefore, when we are saying Krishna instead of our heart melting, sorry, when we are saying Krishna instead of our heart melting, it's staying like a rock. We should be feeling so sad that while I'm chanting, I'm not crying. My voice is not choking up. My eyes are not filling with tears. My hairs are not standing on end. I am not quivering in my body. Our heart is so hard that we should cry that we are not crying for Krishna. And if you are so hard hearted that we are not able to realize how unfortunate it is that we are not crying for Krishna to the extent that we are not crying for Krishna, then we should deeply meditate, and then we should cry that we are not crying, that we are not crying for Krishna. So that and that's the one Guru Maharaj mentioned in his lecture. So in other words, at least we should be crying that we are not crying, 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 that we are not crying for Krishna. At least we should be crying for Krishna somehow or other. So how to satisfy his transcendental desires. So we should be crying for Krishna means we should ask Krishna to give his, to give us the opportunity to, to satisfy his transcendental desires. That should be that's the way we can easily please Krishna. So that should be our mood while we are doing the chanting and in the devotional service. So intense. So we should have to fix our mind in so intense that so always think about Krishna while chanting, or we have to be cry while chanting, like to ask for Krishna about his his desire to give the so that we can engage ourselves in his devotional service. So with this note, I'll stop here. Please forgive me if I make any mistake while narrating the